can't read that out loud. Oh, but I'm going to. I'm Steph. So, about a year ago, I made a video called something. It was about one of Amanda Lovelace's poetry collections. I'm pretty sure it would have been her first one, like The Princess does, whatever the fuck it is. I've been meaning to do a follow-up video ever since then. The time really just slipped away, and I still stand by everything I said in that video. Honestly, I was too nice to her. I remember specifically holding back in case some way, somehow Amanda Lovelace got mad at me. But here we are now, and I have 3 collections of words put together in an order that is marketed as poetry. Really, I'm gonna talk about my issues with this genre as a whole and how these 3 works sort of represent them. First things first, the writing is bad. In every single one of these books, it's just bad, no exceptions. If I had even a crumb of the self-confidence that these people must have to have put these words out into the world, I wouldn't know how to act. Like, you can just tell, like, none of them have, like, a cell of humility. Which is fine, like, go about your life like that. Like, we all know people like that, but do you want to read what they have to write? Literally, Jonah Hill's slam poetry in 22 Jump Street, better. What I take issue with is the content of these works and what they represent about just the world and the industry. Yes, it's terrible writing, but there's terrible writing everywhere, and sometimes you just have to let terrible writing be terrible writing. Some of this work, I would say, is almost morally reprehensible. That's a strong statement. Am I gonna stand by that? Yeah, I think I will. So I'm going to be discussing Dirty Pretty Things by Michael Faudet, Whiskey Words and a Shovel, pretty sure it was volume 1, by R.H. Sin, and then The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one by Amanda Lovelace. I'm going to start with Dirty Pretty Things. Okay, so one time my friend was on the subway and a man sat down next to her and he like twirled a strand of her hair around his finger. And that's what reading Michael Faudet felt like. Not quite, I need to report this to the police, but very uncomfortable. This book prompted me to make an entire new Goodreads shelf called Gross, and it's the only book on that shelf. I'm going to read some choice poems from this book, and they are somewhere between PG-13 and R-rated, and also just straight up disgusting. And I do want to say that I am no prude, and what 2 consenting adults get up to in their private time is their business. The point I'm going to try and make here is that, Michael, you're not quite poetry about your not quite vanilla sex with your look so innocent but really she's not wife isn't poetry. It's gross and I hate it. I'm gonna read to you what are really at best like some statements or like description, and I was having a lot of trouble like practicing reading this shit out loud earlier, so we'll see how this goes. I'll read to you like the title of the poem and then I'll read you the poem. Most of them are very short. Understatement. Unbutton, unzip, unclip, untie, undo, undress. Understood, she replied. That's a poem, according to this man. Dirty. You make me feel a little dirty, she said, and I fucking love it. That's a sentence. Like, I'll give you that. That's a sentence, Mike. But like, anyway, words. Words are powerful things. They can break hearts and make panties wet. Oh god, this one's a doozy. I can't read that out loud. Oh, but I'm going to. Voyeur. There comes a moment, hidden beneath the gentle moans escaping your lips, where a wet line is crossed. Transforming the art of touching yourself into a whole different level. It suddenly becomes what it really is. Everything you want it to be. Raw, hardcore, legs apart. Masturbation. And the intensity of the pleasure increases with each repeated circle. The fantasies start to flow, sticky and swollen, stretching your imagination and opening you up to your dirty little secrets, pulling your hair and you fast. A tiny mouth opens. Spasms and shock, waves of pleasure explode between your legs, mini aftershocks rippling over your clenched body as tight fingers pull on a hard nipple. You lay beneath the messy sheets, quietly exhausted and smiling. I'm gonna get fucking banned from the internet. Yeah, okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. I want you, viewer, to take a moment and dig deep into your soul and ask yourself, do you feel as though I just read you some poetry? I didn't have any screenshots of this, but it's a very common sort of overarching theme in his work of like innocence defiled. You know, a lot of like tiny mouth, pretty pink mouth, white cotton panties, butterflies, voyeurism, how everything like feels dirty. It's disgusting. And there's a lot of how this like picture of innocence and how much like, oh, I love undoing it, and how provocative of me, how erotic. And I just need to say, it's not erotic. There's a massive difference between women undoing the ideas of purity and innocence within their art, especially in regards to sexual agency. But it's so painfully obvious. It's just your kink, buddy. And that's okay. But to market yourself and your work as crossing the wet line and writing these things and these experiences as like so taboo and like out there is just, it doesn't work. Because one, the writing is bad. Descriptions and statements of how you fuck is not subversive or interesting. Like, it's not even erotic. And that's because of like the basic shitty way this is written. A good poet could make writing about paint drying interesting, but this writing is so bad that Michael Faudet managed to make sex displeasing to read about. This book is so uncomfortable that it makes me almost ashamed to have been involved in like any of the acts described in my own life. Now that I have seen this described that way, I wish I had never. To think that at some point this dude was witnessing a woman masturbate, and upon reflecting on that experience, he just had to say, a tiny mouth opens. Is it her mouth? Is it that wop? Why is it tiny? I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'll talk a bit more about like this book in regards to like the genre overall a bit later, but like in terms of talking about fucking dirty pretty things by itself, gross. Do I recommend it? Absolutely not. I think that would be obvious. Moving on. R.H. Sin. Let's discuss. This man clearly loves to tell the story of female pain and abandonment and experience. Every poem in this book is a weird ode to the beautiful but broken manic pixie dream girl, and I hated every second of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the best of my notes that I took while I was reading this book, and then I'll present, you know, my articulated thoughts, but I really think it would be fun to experience my real-time emotions while I read Whiskey Words and a Shovel, because what a treat. Unless I'm like quoting, and I'll indicate that with the little bunny ears hands, I'm reading, you know, my own notes, my own thoughts. So shall we begin? This reeks of just that weird type of misogyny that's making women mythical creatures, except the ones that hurt you. They're poisoned. And either way, women don't get to be human. Did you just compare some women to oceans and others to puddles? He did. I don't have like the actual poem here, but like that happened. Because I couldn't make that shit up. You're not happy with him, and I know this because you're reading this now. First of all, in what world does that make sense? Because nothing on like the cover or like back of the book said, read this if you're dissatisfied in your relationship with a man. I remember specifically, I was like sitting next to my boyfriend when I read that, and I was like, seems like bullshit. This was a good one. Women like you are too rare for average compliments. And I'll get into why that pisses me off so much. I need to, you know, have the evidence. I'm not just talking out of my ass like some kind of ninth grader. Everything in this book upset me. I don't need to talk about it all. This was a good line though, and it made me think of Shrek. There are several layers to a woman. Just several? I'm gonna read you this quote, and then I'm gonna tell you what it immediately made me think of. So here's the quote. I yelled because I actually cared. I only argued with you because I gave a fuck, and now I'm silent. Nothing left to say. No more fight in my heart. This is when you should worry. And I read this also in August, and at that time, there was big Gabby Hanna drama happening. And I immediately thought of that fucking video of her where she says, the person you should be most afraid of is someone who has nothing left to lose, and you people have taken everything from me. Tell me that that quote and that thing that Gabby Hanna said are not the same. Another line, I care about a woman's experience when she's with me. Like, ladies, we gotta get this man some cooch because he cares. Oh yeah, he whines on and on about how chivalry was dead in one of the poems, and then I just wrote, not if you respect women and treat them like whole humans instead of receptacles for male effort. Sweetheart, you're an angel. Don't let these devils undress you. There's a reoccurring like theme in this of like, don't have sex with anyone unworthy of you because you're a perfect being. Like, shut up. women are humans. She'll fuck what she wants to. Oh my god. I'm convinced that you've experienced a set of painful events throughout your life. I'm convinced of that too, because I've lived a life. You're the most beautiful arrangement of broken I've ever seen. It's the savior complex for me. Oh, and then my final sort of note on the book while I was reading it was, why do you only think rare women struggle and experience pain? Are the rest of us hollow or empty? Like, what is this? This collection brings up something that I find particularly insidious in this genre, and that's speaking to your reader and trying to share your weird superiority complex with them. And I just hate the romanticization of pain, especially female pain, you know, because it's not beautiful, because it's pain. It's not there for you to admire and fix and write poetry about. There is nothing respectful about making something your muse. Singling out your reader to feel that way, like, I know you're special. How do I know that? Because you're reading me. This writing, it just like totally validates that like way of thinking about things where like your pain is the thing that makes you beautiful and desirable, which it's not. Everyone, regardless of anything, is all those things. We're all human, we're all worthy unless we're irredeemably pieces of shit. And it's just so vile to me to try and gift your reader with a not like other girls complex and try to sell that like it's uplifting, like it's self-love, because it's not. Fuck you. And yes, like, not like other girls complex, because this is so clearly targeted at women. The entire genre is. And it's because it's so easy to sell this crap to women because we spend our whole lives, I mean, everyone does. Everyone spends their whole lives being sold the idea that they're not good enough. And now we get to be sold crap that tells us that no, you are good enough, but just in a way that's wrong and unhelpful. Like, you're good enough because you're different and special from everyone else, and everyone else is below you. Like, that's, come on. And speaking of women, Amanda Lovelace, can someone get feminism right? Maybe. Not her, though. I have to admit, I actually have a little bit less to say about this collection than I do the other two because I did not finish The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one. I couldn't do it. Once again, her book opened with a trigger warning with "and more" as a part of the trigger warning. And what fucking use is a content warning that doesn't list all possible alarming content? Like, who allowed that? I asked this the first time. What is the editor thinking? What goes through their head that allows some of these things? Like, that thing about having that "and more" in her content warning is that it makes a gimmick out of the content warning. It's just like a way of signaling like, oh, we're getting deep and dark here, folks. Like, come find out. Like, what am I gonna get into? Like, bitch, I don't know. Like, that's why I'm reading the content warning, so that I know, but you're not telling me because you're fucking edgy and I hate you. Anyway, obviously I'm getting riled up now, but when I was reading this, I couldn't get angry like I did the first time I was reading it because I was just rolling my eyes and I was exhausted. It's just more of the same shallow empowerment and shallow language and empty of any close examination of the reality of women's lives. Close examination of anything is missing in all of these books. Like with Faudet, you want to write about sex and your experience with sex? Like, there's so much there to explore. And he made it boring. How do you make sex boring? And then with Sin, why not examine your own experiences instead of projecting weird shit onto women and onto your reader? Like, what reader wants to be projected onto? The relationship between a reader of a text and the text is supposed to be the reader interacting with the text. The text, at least, especially with poetry, it's not meant to project its own weird shit onto you. Lovelace's book is just the same dead-end sentences of how women are fire and inherited rage and rinse and repeat. Every fucking poem is the exact same. The language evokes nothing, and it's the same in all these books. The language is like evocative of mild irritation. It communicates its message, and its message is stupid. Lovelace's books are filled with like just classic weaponized femininity. There's a line in The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one about how red lipstick is a sign of internal fire. We warned you. Not to get into like disagreements that exist within modern feminism, but that's kindergarten capitalist feminism if I ever fucking heard it. It's that weird girl boss bullshit. Put on your reality hat and take a gander at like the real issues. even know what I'm talking about anymore. Anyway, here's where I get to my closing statement before I get fucking lost in my thoughts about all the things that make me angry. I am just so sick of this shallow nonsense passing off not only as literature, but as something that can bring you to life and save you. Sin and Faudet's books, and Lovelace's other book, and Carr's work, Ruby Carr, all have the same overtone of reading this is an act of self-love, healing, and exploration. And how? What are you teaching me that couldn't be better learned somewhere else or be better written by someone else? These works are kindergarten poetry. Why do they get to be advertised like they're going to change your life? And here's my pièce de résistance. These people put out new collections every year almost on the dot because their work is quick to digest and so it sells. You can market it like it's radical, like it's self-love, like it's feminism or provocative or whatever else you want it to be. These people have nothing to say, and I'm not going to read anything else by any of them. I was thinking about doing a review on Ruby Carr's most recent collection. I think it's called Homebody. And then I was like, why would I do that? I hated her other two books. Why would I spend time and money on something that I think is not only like something I won't like, but something I think is objectively stupid and bad? Because I know this whole video has been my opinion, but I think I'm right. These books, this genre, it sucks. It's mass-produced, easily marketable crap. And the next time I talk about poetry, I'm talking about stuff that is worth not just your time, but also your money. So my cat really fucking wants to come in. Jesus Christ. Ellie, you wanna be in the video? Yeah? She's grown so much. Why are you covered in dust? She's going to soothe me down off of my soapbox. There are some subjects on which I know I'm way too passionate. It's like poetry, like antibiotic resistance. And that's what makes me rare and special. All of R.H. Sin's poetry is about me because I've had painful experiences in my life. And I have interests. No one else has those. It's just me. We are going to say good night. Sleep tight. I'm sure Michael Faudet and R.H. Sin and Amanda Lovelace are perfectly pleasant, wonderful people to be around. I don't know them. And so all I know is their work and I hate their work. Anyway, I know most of you have been waiting for a follow-up to that Amanda Lovelace video, myself included, so I hope this has filled that need. Like I said, my next poetry video is going to be actual recommendations of things that are good. It's fun to rant, it's fun to be mad, but it's tiring, which is why I don't do it all that often. But I want your thoughts. If you hate every single thing I said, let me know. I won't change my opinions, but I do want to hear what other people have to say. Just know, like, you're not gonna change my mind. I will be polite to you though. So with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter and Goodreads and Instagram. I need to start posting on Instagram more. I don't. And I love you. Oh, don't show your butt. Shane Dawson is on this app. That wasn't funny. It's kind of funny though, wasn't it? You're a little baby. Bye.